The T-90 is a third-generation Russian main battle tank developed to replace the T-72. It uses a 125mm to a 46 smoothbore main gun, the 1A45T fire control system, an upgraded engine, and gunner's thermal sight. Standard protective measures include a blend of steel and composite armor, smoke grenade dischargers, Contact 5 explosive reactive armor, ERA, and the Shtora infrared anti-tank guided missile, ATGM, jamming system. The T-90 was designed and built by Uralvagonzavod in Nizhny Tagil, Russia. It entered service with the Russian Army in 1992. Russia's T-90 main battle tank, MBT, began life as a Soviet program. While most modern militaries had embraced the concept of a main battle tank and focused their production and deployment on a single variant, the Soviet Army had ordered T-64s, T-72s, and T-80s. Although the three tanks were similar, the differences were wide enough that it created a large logistical and supply burden. To ameliorate this problem, in 1986 design work was approved on Object 188, an upgrade of the T-72. Design, specs, and capabilities of the T-90. From the outside, the T-90 appears similar to its predecessors, the T-72 and the T-80. This apparent similarity belies several upgrades, which make it a superior fighting machine. Defensively, it incorporates newer composite armor as well as explosive reactive armor to defeat incoming missiles. Its Shtora 1 countermeasure suite offers infrared dazzlers, automatic smoke dispensers, and a laser warning system to warn the crew of a missile lock. Offensively, the T-90 is equipped with a 125mm smoothbore tank gun, which is augmented by a sophisticated fire control system. Thermal and infrared imaging allows the T-90 to engage targets up to 8,000 meters away. The T-90 is powered by one of several variants of diesel engines. This marks a departure from the T-80, which used a gas turbine engine similar to those found in the U.S. Army's M1 Abrams. This change was due to the notorious consumption and unreliability of the engine in the T-80. The T-90 in combat. The T-90 has seen service in several conflicts prior to joining the war in Ukraine. In the late 1990s, several of the tanks saw service in Chechnya with disputed results. Some claim Chechen fighters were able to disable or destroy the vehicles with multiple close-range hits from rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs, while the Moscow Defense Brief alleges one T-90 was able to survive and continue fighting despite being hit by 7 RPGs. In 2016, a T-90 in service of the Syrian army during the Syrian civil war was able to survive a direct frontal hit from a US-made anti-tank missile. How the T-90 is faring in Ukraine. So far, the T-90 has failed to match up to that record or have a major impact on the conflict in Ukraine. Military tracking blog Oryx has documented 61 losses of T-90s since the beginning of hostilities as of June of last year. These losses may not, however, reflect entirely on the design and capabilities of the T-90. Most of the combat in Ukraine has occurred in urban or suburban environments where confined spaces are hardly ideal for tank warfare. Furthermore, the advent of new threats appears to have rendered obsolete some of the defenses of the T-90. Loitering munitions, such as the Lancet, as well as top-attack anti-tank guided munitions, such as the US-made Javelin, have so far proved effective against the Shtora defense system. Finally, human factors always play a role. From the outset of the conflict, it seems clear Russia desperately needs to update its tactical doctrine. No matter how advanced and capable any piece of military hardware it is, it will be useless if not employed correctly. Add to that untrained operators, and it is no surprise that the T-90 has not been as dominant as may have been expected. The T-90 has its origins in a Soviet-era program aimed at developing a replacement for the T-64, T-72, and T-80 series of main battle tanks, MBT. The T-72 platform was selected as the basis for the new generation of tank owing to its cost-effectiveness, simplicity, and automotive qualities. The Kartsev Venediktov Design Bureau from Nizhny Tagil was responsible for the design work and prepared two parallel proposals. The Object 188, which was a relatively simple upgrade of the existing T-72B tank, Object 184, and the far more advanced Object 187, only vaguely related to the T-72 series and incorporating major improvements to the hull and turret design, armor, power plant, and armament. Development work was approved in 1986, and the first prototypes were completed by 1988. The vehicles resulting from the Object 187 program have not been declassified to this date. The Object 188 was engineered by a team under VM Venediktov. The biggest change was the integration of the 1A45 fire control system of the T-80U. The Object 188 was initially designated as the T-72BM. The first 4 of these were delivered for trials in January 1989. An improved variant, called the T-72BU, was delivered beginning in June 1990. In March 1991, the Soviet Ministry of Defense recommended that the Army adopt the Object 188. Work on the Object 187 was simultaneously stopped for unknown reasons. Russian tank production dwindled in the years before and after the breakup of the Soviet Union. The Kharkov tank plant belonged to the newly independent Ukraine. The Chelyabinsk tractor plant ended production in 1989, and Kirov and Leningrad in 1990. In the 2 remaining tank plants at Omsk and Nizhny Tagil, state orders all but ceased in 1992. Around the same time, the Russian Ministry of Defense decided it would commit to eventually producing just 1 tank type. During the 1980s, the Soviet military had ordered T-64s, T-72s, and T-80s, then in simultaneous production from rival tank design firms. Though all 3 tanks had similar characteristics, they each required different components, which contributed to the Army's logistical burden. Though both Nizhny Tagil's T-90 and Omsk's T-80U had their merits, the T-80's gas turbine engine was notorious for its high fuel consumption and poor reliability. Additionally, Russian T-80s suffered heavy losses in their first combat use during the First Chechen War. T-90s, which were not deployed to Chechnya, were spared media criticism in spite of the similarly poor performance of the T-72 in the same conflict. In January 1996, Colonel General Alexander Drakin, chief of the main armor directorate of the Russian Ministry of Defense, said the Russian armed forces would phase out T-80 production in favor of the T-90. Drakin reversed his position later that year